Tyler didn't realize he would still be granted a second chance at life after what happened in Dhaka, Bangladesh, where he was shot and fell into the lake, assuming that was the last of him. He was carried away by the current and returned to land, where a young girl observed him. He was transported to Dubai. Through it all, Nick remained at his side, anxiously anticipating his awakening. He had to undergo physical rehabilitation in the hospital after he eventually recovered consciousness. His body was so severely injured after what happened that it took him some time to regain his ability to walk. Nick returned to see him in the hospital one day. Due to his inability to walk properly and the fact that he had previously only wished to pass away and join his son in the afterlife, Tyler felt helpless. He therefore couldn't fathom why he was still living.
Believe it or not, it's pretty difficult to let someone you care about die.
You fought your way back. You just have to find out why.
A man named Zurab is seen feeding the goats in Kojari, Georgia, when another man shows up. The man informs Zurab that his brother's prison term will be increased by 10 years. A governor visited him later on in the day. The governor signed the document extending Zurab's brother's prison term despite the fact that the governor has been working for Zurab. As they conversed, Zurab kindly requested the governor's company for a walk. He simply moved towards the grave Zurab's man dug for him without the governor seeing it. Zurab killed the governor's guards as his men were stabbing the man with a pitchfork. When Tyler was eventually allowed to leave the hospital, he was still required to wear arm and leg braces. Nick and Yes dropped Tyler off at his new house in Munden, Austria, which they had purchased as a gift for Tyler. Tyler received a small package from Nick that was filled with all the valuables he had in his previous residence.
When are we gonna see you again?
And we have something to celebrate.
David, Zurab's brother, went to the room inside the jail where his wife and kids were also imprisoned. Since David had the power to do so, he convinced his family to join him in prison under the pretense that doing so would keep them safe because he could watch over them. David did this because he didn't want to be apart from his family. Caedban, his wife, detested it and has consistently urged him to flee to a place where they could remain free and not be imprisoned there, especially since it is not a secure and healthy setting for their children. After giving Ketavan a slap, David left the cell, leaving Ketavan to sob silently. Sandro, their kid, was awake and heard what occurred. He moved towards his mother to soothe her as soon as his father left. Tyler had just returned from somewhere when he noticed a stranger on his balcony. Tyler approached the man and inquired about him.
You lost right. Are you right? No, asked you first.
The man didn't introduce himself, but he was aware of Tyler's identity and professional abilities. However, he made fun of Tyler's condition to irritate the latter. Tyler fired at the cup the man was drinking from, hitting it exactly as if to demonstrate that he does indeed live up to his moniker. Then, he informed him that a person he knew desired Tyler's employment.
What if it was your ex-wife? Mia?
After that, the man informed Tyler that Mia's sister was in danger. Ketavan is Mia's actual sister. Tyler was asked by Mia to protect her sister from her husband. Additionally, the individual informed Tyler of David and Zurab. David and Zurab were born during the Georgian Civil War. Even in Armenia, their family wasn't safe, so Tandal, their uncle, took them home after they fled. They began selling drugs and killing people at an early age in order to survive. Years later, they finally established the Nagatsi gang, which now effectively controls the entire nation thanks to the loyalty of all the politicians. The brothers promised their gang members that they would grow into a giant family, which is a very potent thing to give those without one. And in exchange, the Nagatsis all transformed into a pack of obedient dogs for the brothers. The man explained everything to Tyler and warned him to be cautious.
Now, if I were you, which I'm obviously not, I'd want to get in there nice and quiet, keep my head down. Because the moment that David finds out that his family's been taken, you can rest assured that his brother's going to want to throw everything at you, and I'm talking about the whole Nagazi army.
Nick was on the phone with someone prior to departing for the Amalfi Coast when Tyler contacted her. When Nick heard about Tyler's new job, he begged him not to take it because the man was recently declared clinically dead and now Tyler was planning to do another job that might put him back into a coma. Or even worse, really execute him this time. Tyler said that Nick wanted him to complete the assignment in order to learn the reason behind why he struggled to come back to life. Tyler exercised his physique and restored it to its pre-training state. He was prepared for the position 6 weeks later, and Nick will assist him. Tyler and her brother Yaz broke into the prison and got the guard to unlock cell 2 of 7, which is home to Ketavan and her children. They managed to get the family out, but Nina, the young girl, unintentionally dropped her toy and it made a noise, waking up a prisoner.
Sorry, kid.
The prisoner whistled to draw the other inmates' attention, and Tyler quickly signaled the family outside as the alarm went off and code red was declared. They passed through a chamber with numerous captives, which Tyler managed to drive out. He then put an explosive near the door to force it open and led the family out once more while being directed where to go. Tyler managed to free the kids, but while he was raising Khediven, David suddenly burst in and attacked Tyler. Tyler was able to break David's hand and stab him in the neck after their combat, but he and Khediven were unable to escape since additional convicts had arrived and were pursuing them. He raced away with Khediven after screaming at Nick to meet them at Charlie. Tyler and Khediven walked past the raging prisoners' common yard, which was in complete disarray. As everyone rushed towards Tyler and Khediven, they found it difficult to escape the yard. They were able to escape the garden, and Nick and Yes arrived to assist them. Magatzes pursued them as they fled, and after Tyler's car was hit, they were forced to flee on foot. When they felt the family was secure, they boarded a cargo train that they had arranged, and Tyler walked outside to shoot down the helicopters that were pursuing them. Nick was engaged in combat with the Negatzis when they were attempting to board the cargo train. The cargo train suddenly exploded, but everyone survived. Sandro was hesitant to accompany them since he wanted to see his father. The youngster sobbed and attacked Tyler after learning that Tyler had slain his father.
Listen to me. You're gonna kill your mother, okay? It was him or her.
Zurab was in a mortuary and was gazing at the body of his brother. Because of his rage and anguish about losing his own sibling, who he had worked so hard to protect, he appeared to be going crazy. Knowing that it wasn't only about getting even with his brother, he vowed to find those guilty for David's killing. On an aircraft, Nick discovered that Tyler was actually acquainted with Khediven since he had previously wed her sister. Sandro surreptitiously contacted Zurab to ask his uncle if David really planned to kill his mother while Tyler and Khediven were conversing, but Zurab tricked Sandro into thinking it was his mother's fault and asked the youngster where they were going. When they arrived in Vienna, Austria, Khediven planned to stay there with her kids while Nick and her team worked on obtaining the necessary visas and other documents so they could flee and hide somewhere more secure. Tyler was reprimanded by Sandro for killing his father as well.
A good son is supposed to stay with his father.
A good father wouldn't make him.
Yeah, well, at least my father didn't leave us.
Later, Tyler went up to Sandro, who was standing on the balcony. He discussed his late son with Sandro, expressing sadness over having been away when he passed away and describing how Khediven had lived with David for years in order to protect her children. Finally, Sandro acknowledged his error and sincerely apologized to Tyler for informing Zurab about their whereabouts. Tyler unexpectedly noticed Nagatzi's chopper. He informed everyone about their departure. Zurab received a new message from Sandra, but Khediven intercepted him and snatched his phone. Khediven was telling Sandro how disappointed she was when Magatsi's chopper opened fire on them. As they were ready to leave the parking lot, Sandra got out of the car and raced to the back alley where Zura was waiting. Yes chased after him and attempted to convince him to accompany him, but Sandro went to Zurab instead. While Tyler proceeded to the 57th floor with Khediven and Nina, Nick and Yas headed to the rooftop.
Yeah, Nick on the 57th floor, south side. Stay here.
Yas left for a meeting with Tyler when Tyler called, and Nick remained on the rooftop to fend off the Negatzis. Nick lost consciousness after being tackled by a Nagat and falling onto a glass roof. Nick was sliding down the glass roof when Tyler saw him and stopped him to prevent her from falling. As he approached, Zurab shot his hand. He was ready to fire again when Nick awoke, broke the glass that Tyler had Zurab standing on, tossed Nick towards the balcony below, and then climbed up simultaneously with Zura. To get the Negatsi's helicopter so they could flee, Khediven and Nina were brought to the rooftop by Nick and Yaz. Tyler fired the glass roof below Zurab as they were fighting on the glass roof, and the man collapsed. Tyler then took the opportunity to go on the rooftop. All but Yaz and Tyler were already on board the chopper. Tyler led Yas to the helicopter, but he was shot by Zura, who had followed them, and Yas died in the aircraft despite Tyler's efforts to save him. Sandro, who was regretting siding with Zurab and endangering his mother, followed Zurb as they left. Everyone was brought to Tyler's house, where Nick lamented the loss of his brother. Later, Mia arrived and met up with her sister. She left the room and went to Tyler, asking him why he left when she and their son most needed him.
I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I didn't stay. I should have been there for you, for him.
You're right, I don't want to hear it.
When they heard Tyler's phone buzzing, they were still talking for a bit. Tyler asked Zurb where Sandra was after learning that he was still alive, and Zurab offered to negotiate when he called to let him know he couldn't leave. Tyler was instructed by Zurab to meet him at the airport's St. George's Church. Nick attempted to accompany Tyler as he got ready to depart, but Tyler refused, ordering Nick to stay with Khediven. As soon as he got to the airstrip, he shot all the cars to death, setting off multiple explosions. He entered the church where Zurab and Sandra were and killed every one of Zurab's soldiers. Zurab gave Sandro a gun and instructed him to shoot Tyler in order to revenge his father after Tyler noticed Sandro had a bomb attached to his vest. Sandro hesitated as Zurab tried to convince him.
It's so let's go.
When Nick arrived to assist Tyler, Zurab immediately held Sandro hostage after hearing a disturbance behind him. Tyler signaled to Sandro with his eyes and the child broke free from Zurab's grip, diverting Zurab's attention away from Nick. Nick grabbed her weapon right away and started firing at Zurab. Tyler attacked Zurab and began to struggle with him. He grabbed the screwdriver nearby and repeatedly stabbed Zurab after being pinned down with a saw by Zurab. While Tyler and Zurab were engaged in combat, Sandro removed the bomb-laden vest from his body and ran up to Nick, who was wounded. After apologizing to her, Nick took the detonator from Sandro and switched it off. Tyler was winning versus Zura. Tyler chased him as he fled on all fours, stabbing him several times. Zurab took the ultimate hit after being stabbed in the chest by Tyler. He then took Nick into his arms and held him there until the police showed up. Both Tyler and Nick were taken into custody, but Nick spent some time in the hospital getting well. When Mia saw Tyler, they were able to make up. Tyler was reassured by Mia that their boy did not believe his father had abandoned him when he left the hospital room.
His last image of you wasn't you walking out on him. It was you going off to save people.
Mia then said goodbye to Tyler. Tyler was taken by the guards, but they did not return him to his cell. Instead, they led him to a quiet location where he met the man he had first met on his porch. Tyler again tried to get the man to say his name, but he refused. As long as they both worked for his boss, the man said he could free Tyler and Nick from prison. Nick was getting out of another car when Tyler turned around and asked the man, "Who's your boss?"
Who I work for? Who's that? You naughty motherfucker.
Tyler could only watch him walk away in amazement as the man, who obviously has a fetish for not introducing himself and the people he works with, refused to give the name of his employer. Instead, he simply said that he'd love the boss. This is an action thriller film called Extraction 2, Back from the Brink of Death. Commando Tyler Rake embarks on a dangerous mission to save a ruthless gangster's imprisoned family. Do well to watch it if you finds it interesting. Highly recommended.